is very difficult unless they have their own personal computers. This, we must understand, lead to much frustration. Therefore, it becomes the responsibility of the college to ensure a continuous delivery of new knowledge and updates on recent advances by conducting regular CME programs, seminars, and workshops in these areas. The surgical education training sessions or the SETS program by a group of young surgeons is a very good initiative to reach out to our colleagues in faraway places through teleconference. We know that the initial endeavor was very successful in teaching young surgeons in Jaffna, Kandy, and Galle at the same time. Now, at the recently concluded academic sessions of the Gastroenterological and Digestive Endoscopy Society, I was very happy to witness the participation of members in Jaffna, Peradeniya, Karapitiya, and Kelaniya through teleconference. This has to be further developed to provide maximum benefits to more hospitals, more so in the rural areas. Now, last year, another interesting activity of the college was in conducting mobile skills workshops. The first laparoscopic workshop was led by our new president and is conducted in Ambilpitiya and Hambantota. Now, this is thinking in the correct direction. I must say that in this particular project, most of the teaching learning equipment was created by our new president, Dr. K.L. Fernando himself, at his own residence. I'm not surprised at this, because hailing from my own hometown in Moratuwa, the carpenter in Dr. Fernando surfaced, and he made 10 learning sets that could be dismantled and transported easily to wherever you decide. It was a great success. It is this type of contribution that makes a big difference to what we can do in difficult conditions with financial constraints. I think, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great blessing to be innovative. If things don't work, make them work. Now, that is my motto. I think it would be a good motto for all of us. And in doing this, sometimes it may be necessary to go beyond one's own self, even to the extent of using private resources. Now, thinking back, the surgeon of distinction who has inspired me comes to my mind. He is the late Mr. A.T.S. Paul, our first cardiothoracic surgeon. When government funds were not available to buy a heart lung machine, Mr. Paul made his own heart lung machine using his own finances. And in 1968, that cost him 125,000 rupees. I know this for a truth, because I was fortunate to be his house surgeon at that time. Now, our new president is also one such person. He was determined to make the best use of what he had to do what he wanted to do. Having self-financed his training, he returned to the country bringing his own laparoscopic equipment and pioneered laparoscopic surgery in Sri Lanka. When sclerotherapy injection sets used in the treatment of esophageal varices were scarce and expensive, he made his own sets with thin nylon tubing, and he even taught me how to do it. So, ladies and gentlemen, in Dr. K.L. Fernando, our new president, we have an innovative and an enterprising president in this era of development in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, the need to strengthen surgical services in rural areas is evident even globally. In the recent past, with the availability of data suggesting that essential surgical services can be delivered in a cost-effective manner in suburban and rural areas, the World Health Organization has established a clinical procedure unit, and they initiated the Emergency and Essential Surgical Care Project, or the EESC. It was launched in 2005, targeting mainly the rural hospitals in areas of development. Therefore, I think, Mr. President, it may be useful for us to study this model designed to strengthen and deliver surgical and anesthetic services in the newly opened areas of development. Another interesting project comes from California, is on the role of what they call surgeon volunteers working in rural areas. This was initiated by the Department of Surgery of the University of San Francisco. They have found that this is a rewarding experience. What it means is that surgeons from big cities go to suburban or rural hospitals and work for short periods of time entirely on a voluntary basis. They also found that this is very strengthening and makes these young surgeons confident and enthusiastic when senior surgeons come and work with them. Now this is something that is not unknown to us. We have been doing this even in 1966. When I was working in the state hospital, I used to go to Valisara one morning, do all the operations, including pneumonectomies, lobectomies, even esophagectomies, and come back to Colombo, and the local staff managed it. We have experience of this even recently during turbulent times, and in the period immediately after hostilities ended. Now this is food for thought for the new council under your leadership. So in essence, Mr. President, at a time when the whole country is rapidly moving towards new horizons, we as a professional body should respond to the call of the country and play a pivotal role in strengthening and extending our surgical services to the areas that need them. At the same time, we must be sensitive to the concerns and anxieties of the younger surgeons who are called for service in these areas and provide them with minimal requirements. Above all, Mr. President, they need to be inspired to serve, responding to the call of Lanka, realizing that at the end of the day, what is important is a sense of fulfillment in one's own self, and that is the important thing. Franklin Roosevelt, the former US President, outlining his plan for a New Deal in 1929, said, "Happiness lies not in the mere possession of money. It lies in the joy of achievement, in the thrill of creative effort." Mr. President, with these few thoughts, I conclude, and I thank you once again for this signal honor to be with you in your moment of great joy. I am confident that with the support of your new council, you, as an innovative and enterprising president, will make a great contribution to the College of Surgeons and to our country, Sri Lanka. Thank you.
The next item in the agenda is the address by the guest of honor. I would like to call upon the President of the College of Surgeons, Dr. Kale Fernando, to introduce the guest of honor, Mrs. Mari South.
Our chief guest, Dr. Fernando, and past presidents, council members, fellows, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. I'm so grateful to our next speaker, Mrs. Mari South, who coming all the way from England, despite her husband's illness, to be here with us today. I will elaborate further in my speech, but suffice it to say that Mari has been one of the most influential figures in my surgical career. A master of several surgical disciplines, she qualified from St. Bartholomew's Hospital in 1968 and obtained her FRCS in 1972. The surgical training was primarily on the St. George's surgical rotation, leading to a Master's of Surgery degree in 1977 and a first consultant post in 1981. During a long and diverse career, highlights includes her appointment as Chairman and Program Director of the Southeast Thames Training Committee and Examiner for the Intercollegiate Board for the completion of training in general surgery. She also served as Director of Modules for the Master of Surgery degree at Kent University. This short list cannot possibly encapsulate her achievements and talents, but I invite you to extend a very warm welcome to our guest of honor, Mrs. Mari South.
Mr. President, past presidents, members of the Council, honoured guests, colleagues from Edinburgh, colleague from Darlington, ladies and gentlemen, to say that it's an honour to be here today is really to understate my feelings. It gives me enormous pleasure and personal pride to be with you on this auspicious day for the induction of K.L. Fernando as the 29th President of the College of Surgeons of Sri Lanka. It was my good fortune to have Lucky Fernando as my registrar at Maidstone Hospital with my colleagues, and it had occurred at a time of exciting change in general surgical practice, namely the advent of laparoscopic surgery, which quite fired our imagination. And Lucky and I took a trip to see one of the early pioneers, Professor Dubois, in Paris, performing a laparoscopic cholecystectomy and a laparoscopic appendicectomy, and it was quite the most exciting thing we'd seen for a very long time, although we did take in another visit to the Louvre. Change, therefore, is my chosen theme for this address. Looking back over 30 years as a consultant general surgeon, but also looking even further back at some of the eminent figures in general surgery. Change in general surgery, of course, has largely been driven by surgical innovation. To a degree also changes in organizational plans, which have not always been the most welcome. However, they have impacted considerably on our lives as general surgeons. And these new techniques have resulted in great improvements for our patients, much improved outcomes. But also, along the way, we've needed to revisit some old lessons that we've forgotten en route